These are 9 of the most infamous dictators in history, men who collectively caused the deaths of tens of millions of people, and not a single one of them got a peaceful, dignified ending. From bunkers to drainage pipes, from firing squads to hospital beds in exile, every one of these tyrants met a fate that tells you something about the kind of world they created. Let's start where most people expect, the bunker. By January 1945, Adolf Hitler knew the war was lost.
Sie glauben, dass auch nur ein Riss in das Gefüge unserer einzigen Bewegung gekommen sei. Sie steht fest, so wie dieser Block hier.
He descended into the Führer bunker, a concrete shelter buried 55 feet beneath the Chancellery in Berlin, equipped with 18 rooms, its own water supply, and its own electrical system. For months, he lived underground, issuing orders to armies that were being obliterated. On April 28th, word reached the bunker that Mussolini had been killed in Italy, his body beaten by a mob and strung up by the ankles at a gas station. Hitler was reportedly horrified. He swore that would never happen to him. That same day, he married Eva Braun. Less than 40 hours later, on April 30th, 1945, both of them were dead. Hitler swallowed a cyanide capsule and shot himself in the head simultaneously. Eva took cyanide alone. He was 56 years old. Their bodies were carried into the Chancellery garden and burned, per his instructions. And here's a grim detail. Those cyanide capsules? Hitler had them tested first on his beloved dog Blondie and her puppies to make sure they worked. For decades, conspiracy theories swirled that Hitler had escaped to South America. The Soviets didn't help, announcing in 1945 that his remains hadn't been found. But in 2017, French forensic pathologist Philippe Charlier examined Hitler's dental remains held in Soviet archives and confirmed they were a perfect match with X-rays taken of Hitler in 1944. They even found plant fibers in the tartar on his teeth, consistent with his well-known vegetarianism. He died in that bunker. End of story. Now, the man whose death actually triggered Hitler's suicide, Benito Mussolini. Il Duce had been running Italy since 1922, but by 1945 he was a shadow of his former self, reduced to leading a German puppet state in northern Italy. On April 27th, disguised in a Nazi helmet and overcoat, he tried to slip past partisan checkpoints in a German convoy. He was recognized instantly. The next day, a communist partisan named Walter Audicio was sent to execute him. But when Audicio pulled the trigger, his submachine gun jammed. He had to borrow another partisan's weapon before finally shooting Mussolini in the chest. Mussolini's last words reportedly alternated between defiance and terror. Some accounts say he shouted, "Shoot me in the chest!" Others say he died screaming, "No, no!" His mistress, Clara Petacci, was killed alongside him. Their bodies were trucked to Milan, hung upside down at a gas station, and beaten by the crowd. One woman emptied an entire pistol into Mussolini's corpse, shouting, "5 shots for my 5 assassinated sons." The New York Times called it a fitting end to a wretched life. Oh, and one more thing. In 1966, samples of Mussolini's brain were returned to his widow by a psychiatric hospital in Washington, D.C., where they'd been stored since 1945. In 2009, someone tried to sell vials of his brain and blood on eBay for 15,000 euros. They were taken down. Joseph Stalin's death was completely different. No bullets, no bunker, just fear. On the night of March 1st, 1953, Stalin was at his Kuntsevo dacha outside Moscow. Sensors in his rooms detected no movement. His guards noticed, but nobody dared open the door. They were terrified of disturbing him. Hours passed. When they finally entered, they found Stalin on the floor, soaked in his own urine, barely conscious after a massive stroke. His blood pressure had spiked to 210/120. Doctors applied leeches to his neck and face, 16 of them in 2 rounds. Nothing worked. He died on March 5th at age 74. The paranoia he'd cultivated for decades literally killed him. Nobody wanted to be the person who woke Stalin up uninvited. And at his funeral, the crowds were so massive that at least 109 people were crushed to death. Even in death, Stalin managed to take lives. Some historians believe he was actually poisoned with warfarin by Lavrentiy Beria, the head of his secret police, though this has never been proven. Fast forward to Christmas Day, 1989. Nicolae Ceausescu, who had ruled Romania for 24 years, was dragged before a military tribunal alongside his wife Elena. The trial lasted less than an hour. At 2:50 p.m., a firing squad of 8 paratroopers executed them both. Before the shots, Ceausescu reportedly shouted, "We could have been shot without having this masquerade." Here's what's wild. Opinion polls in 2014 showed that 46% of Romanians would have voted for Ceausescu if given the chance. A dictator more popular in death than many politicians are in life. Saddam Hussein's end was more drawn out. Captured by US forces in 2003, hiding in a spider hole near his hometown of Tikrit, he was tried by the Iraqi High Tribunal for the Dujail massacre. On December 30th, 2006, just before 6 a.m., he was hanged at Camp Justice in Baghdad. He'd requested a firing squad, claiming it was the proper military execution for a former commander-in-chief. Denied. His last meal was chicken and rice, with a cup of hot water and honey. A leaked cell phone video showed guards chanting the name of Shia cleric Muqtada al-Sadr as the noose was placed around his neck. The UN called the execution a violation of human rights law. Muammar Gaddafi lasted even longer in power, 42 years, before the Arab Spring caught up with him. On October 20th, 2011, rebel fighters pulled him out of a drainage pipe near Sirte. Bloodied and dazed, he reportedly said, it's okay, what's the matter?" It was not okay. He was beaten, sodomized, and shot. An autopsy confirmed he died from a gunshot wound to the head, but nobody has ever been held accountable for who actually pulled the trigger. His body was buried in a secret grave in the desert. Pol Pot, the architect of Cambodia's killing fields, where roughly a quarter of the entire country's population was murdered, somehow avoided all of that. After being overthrown in 1979, he lived in the jungle for nearly 2 decades. In 1997, his own Khmer Rouge put him on trial and sentenced him to life under house arrest. He died on April 15, 1998, officially of heart failure, though many suspect suicide. No autopsy was ever performed. Months before his death, he told an interviewer, "My conscience is clear." A man responsible for nearly 2 million deaths said his conscience was clear. Idi Amin killed an estimated 300,000 to 500,000 Ugandans during his 8 years in power. He reportedly kept severed heads in his refrigerator and fed bodies to crocodiles in the Nile. After being overthrown in 1979, he fled to Saudi Arabia, where the royal family gave him sanctuary and a generous stipend. He lived on the top 2 floors of a Novotel hotel in Jeddah for years. He died of kidney failure in a Saudi hospital on August 16, 2003, at roughly 78 years old. Never faced a single charge. Francisco Franco ruled Spain for 36 years and died in his bed on November 20, 1975, at age 82, from heart failure. He'd even built his own mausoleum, a massive underground basilica called the Valley of the Fallen. In 2019, his remains were exhumed and moved as part of Spain's effort to reckon with his legacy. But as recently as 2025, 20% of young Spaniards aged 18 to 24 said they thought the Franco years were good. 9 dictators, 9 deaths. Some were executed. Some took their own lives. Some simply got old and died comfortably, surrounded by luxury they didn't deserve. The uncomfortable truth is that history doesn't always deliver justice. Sometimes the worst people on Earth die peacefully in hotel rooms and hospital beds. And sometimes the crowds that cheer their downfall end up missing them a generation later. If you liked this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments what I should talk about next.